and I hate this new thing that it does. Just all right.
Actually, I like it. It's good.
Here we go. Punctual as usual. Look at this. Everybody's coming in today. Everybody's coming in today. Anthony Ross. Let Anthony Ross in. All right. This is going to be a fun one, people. A lot of good info in this one. Don't want to miss it. All right. We're recording as the beautiful announcement. They should make Chris O'Driscoll that announcement saying this meeting's being recorded. I wonder if we could change to his voice. How's that sound? Jerry's there typing away. He's typing his blog. He's got a lifestyle blog.
I am doing an invite for everybody to the Santa Barbara Triathlon.
The world brought to you by Hot Rod.
So how was your wetsuit today? Were you good?
Oh my God.
Good fitting?
Oh my, it fits great, but holy cow, I thought I took that thing off and it was pruned. I have a heat stroke in there. So I found a new
last week at the beach, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was a different one. I found a new wetsuit in my garage. It was in the box still, and I realized I never had opened the wetsuit. So I'm like, hey, let me see if I can use this for this weekend. Felt great, but holy hot. So the way my voice sounds right now, it's like depleted. After the race in Des Moines this weekend, I spoke to all of our athletes, each individually, and that's the way they sounded. The heat, the humidity, just totally depleted. And everybody had that, that really labored feeling in their voice, kind of similar to what I have right now.
Yeah, well, this coming weekend is going to be another one, right? Woo! Pretty hot, isn't it?
We got 105 happening in Coeur d'Alene this weekend. Wow. I think it officially says 102, but Doug just said it's getting worse, so I'm just going to say 105.
So what do you got behind you there? I've seen a bunch of props back there.
Oh, look at this. I brought out all my jerseys, right? So I have my wetsuit over here. I have my junior ice hockey career Bismarck Bobcats jersey right here.
So wait a minute. Wait, that's number 12. Am I seeing that correctly?
Number 12. Yes, number 12.
Junior. 12. So what is that? How old were you?
I was the years after high school. So I played in Bismarck, North Dakota for, let's see, when I was 17, 18, 19. Let's see, that's 4 years. So I was like 18, 19, and 20. I was in Bismarck, North Dakota.
So is that pre-pro or is that the beginning?
That's like semi-pro before college.
Okay.
And yeah, before college, you don't get paid because it would negate your eligibility for NCAA.
Right.
But you don't pay anything. You play in front of thousands of people every night. Play 88 games a year or whatever. You're just on the bus traveling left and right. Yeah. So that was 2 years after high school. I did that. Then I went to college. Actually, my college jersey's inside somewhere too. And then, hey, check out this one though. Here's my kit. Right. That's my triathlon kit. And then this one.
Yep.
7th grade state champ, right there.
Bring that up. Let's see that. I want to see exactly what that says.
I have it really rigged up there. They're all going to fall down eventually, but 459.15, 7th grade, and it used to say state champ, but this thing is let's see, 7, I don't even know how old you are in 7th grade, but it's probably about 30 years old. This
so
shirt.
459 for what? Why don't you tell us what?
1 mile. For? The 1 mile, 4 laps at the track. 1 mile, 459.15 as a 7th grader. State champ. There you go. State champ.
Sub 5-minute mile runner at 12 years old.
Track and field state.
Unbelievable.
IESA, Illinois. I don't know. It's Illinois something. So there's that. So it's a little fodder for conversation out there.
That's impressive, Jay.
Some people might just have the shirt made and say that, but I'm actually a state champion.
I remember we talked about that when we did interviewed you in one of the calls.
I topped out. My career peaked in 7th grade.
Like many gymnasts and swimmers, actually.
Yeah. Well, there you go. See, some of you guys can talk about that. Look at all my history is all behind me. So, hey, we have a really interesting show here. So we have I'm not sure how to say it, Dr. Jason. Snibby.
Yeah, it's Snibby. SNIBBE. Yeah.
Let's just call him Dr. Jason. All right. So let's get right into
just
this.
Dr. J. I mean, that's
Dr. J. Yeah.
Dr. J.
He's gonna be making hook shots the whole time, like that.
Exactly.
There you go. So, Dr. Jason, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. We have athletes from around the world listening in right now. Coach Chris, our new producer, set this up. So, Coach Chris, thanks. Dan Loader, Dr. Dan. helped out in setting up. So when Coach Chris said, look, we are bringing you on to talk to you about, your profession and how you can help our athletes get through some issues they might be having. And what's your specialty?
So I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I specialize mainly in shoulder, hip, and knee injuries. And I also manage a lot of kind of chronic injuries in lots of athletes. So I deal with chronic tendonitis, like stuff that you guys deal with, a lot of sports injuries like Achilles tendonitis, hamstring tendonitis, hip flexor tendonitis, shoulder and elbow issues from chronic use. We use a lot of biologics, like you guys have, I'm sure, discussed PRP, using your plasma. We also do bone marrow, where we take some marrow from your pelvis and we spin that down and inject it into tendons and parts of your body to try and get your body to heal itself. Because as you may know, the tendons in your body, every year we get older, the blood supply to those tendons gets worse and worse. So we try to reverse the equation and get more blood flow, more healing capacity there, which allows you guys to continue on with your activities and your movement and your extreme sports, as I say.
It's definitely extreme. We've got an Ironman coming up this week, 2.4 miles, 112 bike, 26.2. And in our world, that's normal. But in the normal, the average person's world, it's just, that's crazy, right? It's extreme. And it's a lot of wear and tear, and I mean, first off, we want to start with, what do you recommend to athlete that comes in preventive wise? Because this is something, Achilles, knees, hips, it starts at the joints, right? So preventive.
I mean, I think that, the body is a kinetic chain, right? When your foot strikes the ground, when you run, the forces go through your body, through your foot, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your SI joint, your spine. It's this whole thing. And so I think the critical part of prevention is flexibility, is stretching. You guys should be, and I always tell patients, which they, a lot of patients, I'm icing like crazy. And I think icing is okay sometimes for acute inflammation, but I think the main pillar of stretching is heat, using jacuzzi, sauna, and spending time after you're in a jacuzzi or after you're in a sauna to stretch, to work on your flexibility, to work on your movement, like stretch out your IT bands, really working on your core, right? So stretching your adductors, your IT bands, working on hip flexibility. Because if your hips are tight, there's a lot of data showing it stresses out your back, your SI joint. It can actually make your knees and your ankles hurt a lot too, because you're overstressing those areas. I also think that having someone work with you on your alignment, if you need some, or like if you have a little pronation in your feet, that pronation can put a valgus moment or like a knock-knee moment in your knee and make your knee hurt like crazy. But your knee, you could ice your knee, rehab your knee as much as you want, but if you're striking your foot in pronation, that's going to alter all your gait and cause IT band issues and stuff like that. So I think stretching out those areas, making sure the alignment of your foot strike is neutral and appropriate. And then also strengthening, as most of you guys I'm sure do, strengthening your core and really the part of your body that a lot of people ignore is your glutes, really getting your glutes to fire. There's a lot of data out there showing that your glutes don't fire normally. They kind of go up and down, up and down. We're really working on those muscle groups to really fire appropriately, can take a lot of stress off your body.
That's funny. Wow. Just call me doctor. Does this sound familiar, guys? Come on. That's what I'm saying. Now listen to this expert in the field, not just listen to, this me. But I couldn't agree more with the the glute firing all. How important it is is the athletes having the correct shoe that fits their foot, the correct cleat placement on the bike. Is this something you stress? Say someone comes in with an Achilles issue. Do you back up and say, okay, are you wearing the right shoe? Is your cleat fit correctly? Is that something that you address with athletes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not an expert in cleat fitting and stuff like that, but yes, I mean, a simple thing like that, like if your cleat is off, or where you're striking that area can alter the mechanics of your hip, of your quad firing, of the anterior portion of your knee, like your patellar tendon. So I think that working with somebody who's really in tune with that, and sometimes, like I always really encourage my patients to develop crossover. So for example, let's say you have a body working person and they know that your glutes are tight. Sometimes it's important to bring your body person, bring your physical therapist, bring your personal trainer to the fitting, so they can communicate with the fitter how you are and how you are. Because sometimes it's hard for you as a person to say, this is what I am, because it's not somebody looking at you as a third person. So I think it helps to get your team together to help educate everybody on how you are, how your mechanics are. Because the important thing is that not everybody's alignment is perfect. And sometimes you cannot make your alignment perfect. And sometimes you can't make your hips like a ballerina. But the more you work on it, the more you stretch it out, the more you work on your flexibility, that will help prevent major injuries.
Oh, that's awesome. So someone comes into you and says, my Achilles is flaring up. I'm getting some pain in my Achilles. What the first thing you do, is that just, okay, go right to PRP, or what's the first step?
No. I mean, we try to do a lot of non-invasive things. We try to do a lot of, like I said, stretching, heat. Because the Achilles tendon is so close to the skin, a lot of the creams like the CBD, the Voltaren gels, we can use those. Voltaren gels like a gel with Advil in it. The CBDs are become very popular now to help with inflammation. That can be very helpful. Rolling out, doing foam roller, and also, I'm sure all of you guys are using what is it called? Theragun, the Theragun type of things, or Hypervolt, doing that can kind of break up scar tissue. And also sometimes it's really painful sometimes, but like some deep tissue with a body person to really break up, break up some of that tightness in that area. So that's the mainstay of treatment that we do. Sometimes if it's really a ton of pain, we will get more advanced imaging. We'll order an MRI to look at the quality of the tendon, look at how it looks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. The Voltaren, I used to have one guy that I coached. Every time he went to Mexico, he'd bring back a suitcase full of it. And then the FDA approved it here, and no more trips to Mexico. It's
now it's over the counter. You can just go buy it at the store. So it's perfect.
Loading up on that stuff every week. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jerry, what are you thinking right now?
It's all good to hear. We need to,
Yeah. And then the other thing, just to go the next step is that, I see a question there about, the other thing that someone asked is I saw a question down there is about acupuncture. I am a huge fan of acupuncture, and just purely for the fact that, we don't really get trained on acupuncture, but I've had hundreds and hundreds of patients over my career where they've done it, and it's helped a lot. And I think that there's something about the relationship between the neurological symptom and the neurological system in the skin and the deep nerves in your body. So I've had a lot of patients get better in shoulders, sometimes Achilles, sometimes patellar tendonitis, where they try some acupuncture. It's been very effective. So I think that's part of your body working person, your good therapist. You got to have a good acupuncturist in your team to help you. But I think that's very helpful. I think that when people have chronic pain and it hasn't gone away and it's kind of nagging them, that's when we do PRP. And for those of you that know or don't know, PRP is when we draw your peripheral blood out of your arm and we spin the blood down. We remove the white blood cells and the red blood cells. And then under ultrasound guidance, I inject multiple sites along the tendon with PRP. Typically, after we do that, we usually immobilize the leg. We put you like in a boot, but I really hate boots because it makes you off kilter. So I try to just have someone use a boot until they don't need it. So it could be just 2 or 3 days. It could be 5 days. But for 1 week, no lower body, no running, no biking, no lifting. You can do upper body. You can use a buoy between your legs and swim with just your upper body. And then Then after a week, I tell you to do about 60% of what you normally do for another week. And then the third week, you're back full. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks for it to kick in, and sometimes 3 months to fully kick in. So it takes time. So sometimes if you're in the middle of your season, it's hard to do PRP because it doesn't always, you don't have time for it to work, right? So a lot of times it's something after the season, or if you have a break, if you have like a month to do it. If you get better, and you're great, we leave you alone. If sometimes people say I'm 50, 60% better. And for those people, we will do it again. We'll give them another shot. But I don't do multiple shots at once. We just do one shot, but we put into multiple sites in the tendon.
Got it. Emily, what do you got? Eli, I'm sure you have athletes also that you might want to go over some questions.
I was just wondering, when you were talking about stretching, do you recommend dynamic stretching over static stretching? What is kind of your kind of best practices, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I like dynamic stretching, and I like multi-planar stretching. So I like, you're on your knee, you're flexing your hip, you're doing your hip flexor, but then you're also doing like a side bend, doing multiple plane stretching, and also with movement. I think that's very, very helpful, to allow people, because we don't move in this one, static little space. I think it's doing stretching with movement. It's very helpful. Doing sometimes combined strengthening with stretching can be very helpful as well. But I really love a lot of movement, a lot of rotational movement. And it's really important also, like I tell patients all the time, the worst thing that we do in life is sleep, because we're still. And when we wake up, our back and our whole body's like concrete, and we have to break it all up. And so I think that one of the things is mobilization of the spine, mobilizing your thoracic spine, your lumbar spine, really getting that movement out of your spine to mobilize it. Because there's a lot of data saying if you really have a stiff back, it really stresses out your hips. It really stresses out your cervical spine and your shoulder blades. So I think, yes, that's a very important point. Dynamic stretching, as well as rotational and multi-planar stretching.
That's
okay.
Really good.
I had another kind of question. I've dealt with a lot of athletes who've had plantar fasciitis, and I've had it myself. And I found, speaking of sleeping, that the Strasbourg sock worked well for me to kind of help me get over the hump on the pain in the morning. Do you recommend like night splints or the Strasbourg sock if you can tolerate it for plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, I think that for plantar fasciitis, I've actually had great success with plantar fasciitis using PRP. We do that a lot, actually. But I think that yes, I think the sock, the night splinting can be very helpful. It's just a thing of tolerance. Some people just can't tolerate having something on their leg all night, so I just think but I think that plantar fasciitis is one of those things where the stretching, they're really working that thing multiple times a day. I always tell patients, you almost have to be obsessed with it. Like every day, every hour stretch, have a golf ball in your office that you're rolling on all day while you're on the computer to just work that flexibility of that fascia. But I think, yes, I think that some people have great success with the sock and also with the night splitting. So yeah, it's a thing. It's worth a try sometimes to see. And sometimes it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of the body work, acupuncture, PRP, all those things to try and get you better quicker.
You know what I love that you're saying is it's not just putting a Band-Aid on it or giving it Voltaren. You're coming back to the root. You're peeling the onion as to figuring out what's causing the issue, right? So a lot of doctors just be like, okay, we're going to give you PRP right away, or we're going to cut you open right away and take out that neuroma or whatever it is. Whereas it sounds like you're coming from the point of view, like, let's fix what's causing the problem so it doesn't just keep happening. Because if you cut open somebody, you don't fix what's going on, it's just going to happen again, right?
Right. And again, sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes like you have patellar tendonitis, but guess why you have patellar tendonitis? Because your ankle mobility sucks. So if you get your ankle moving and work on the flexibility of your ankle, now all of a sudden your patellar tendonitis goes away. So it's just like I said, it's all the kinetic chain. It's like this whole movement. There's people actually who have a stiff hip who actually get shoulder pain because when they're moving and they're swimming or they're doing some activity, they're overusing that shoulder because they're trying to move their body in a certain way. And then all of a sudden they stretch out their hip and their shoulder feels better. So it's just looking at the whole body as a whole thing, because we're not just a shoulder. We're not just the plantar fascia. We're not just an Achilles tendon,
Totally. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Dr. J, what are some of the no-nos? Example, folks who like taking Advil before workouts. I'm throwing something out. Folks who like stretching a lot before workouts or races.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, I think that overstretching prior to workouts is probably not a great thing, because sometimes a lot of athletes feel like they lose the elasticity, the bounce of kind of their ligaments and their tendons. So I do think that there should be some stretching, some very light stretching before an event. But I don't think it should be excessive. You know what I mean? Just some light stretching. And I think it's important to warm up, to get the blood flowing, to kind of, go for a light jog, try to, maybe get on a bicycle trainer or something like that, just to get the body moving. And I think that that's important. I think the no-nos are just, really, if there's something that's very stiff and very inflexible in you, like let's say you have a stiff hip, or your both hips are stiff, or your spine is stiff, I would say stretch that out to work on that. Because if you get out there and you have that stiffness, you're going to get injured, So I think that's a key part of it. And also, and then when you're done with your workouts, I think it's important to stretch. That's when you can really stretch and work on your flexibility, sauna, jacuzzi, stuff like that for recovery. The other no-nos are basically like, if we always say, with your, what do I want to say? If you're having severe pain, you're having sharp, horrible pain, you guys have such high pain tolerances. You guys can run through and jam through a lot of stuff. So I think it's important to listen to your body sometimes, that there's maybe a significant injury there, and it's time to seek help. I think that's important.
Really great. All right, Eli, you have anything with your athletes that you see happening, or anything that you have on the top of your mind that you'd want to talk about? I unmute you. There you go.
Yeah. Most of my athletes are, knock on wood, are pretty healthy right now. I'm probably the most injured out of the whole group. And I've been running on a torn meniscus for a year and a half now. I had considered PRP this year, and it was only because of the season and the timing, as you mentioned, that there wasn't a good time for me to do it. So my doctor, talked about that. I said, so what's the harm in me running on my torn meniscus? And he said that if I could tolerate it, and if everything was working for me, and I keep my quad strength, up there, and keep everything strong, that I could continue to run on that torn meniscus. His thought was, a torn meniscus is better than no meniscus at all. He didn't want to go in and remove the meniscus. So what I'm hoping is later on, maybe towards the end of the season, I would consider doing the PRP treatment.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. Yeah.
The advice that you got is excellent advice. That is a very knowledgeable, and that's excellent advice. The days of the meniscus surgery being effective and helping people have really dropped down significantly. I've seen many patients who have we have two knees, right? They'll say, this knee, I had a meniscus tear, I had surgery. The other one, I had a meniscus tear, I didn't have surgery. On the one that has surgery, without fail, they're bone on bone within 10, 15 years. But the one that they didn't operate on, they're fine. So there's something that happens when we as surgeons go in there and start knucking around and messing with the meniscus. It even though it can be a small meniscus tear, I always tell patients, I'm 48 years old. It would take, I would just basically not be able to, for me to have meniscus surgery, I'd have to basically be not able to walk. I couldn't walk like 5 feet, you know, that would be the only reason why anyone would ever take out my meniscus. I wouldn't let anyone do it because I think that it causes a lot of damage. So I think the important aspects of it are developing is treating it conservatively. So, you know, PRP injections, range of motion, physical therapy, body work, all the stuff that we talked about, acupuncture, trying to whatever you can to get it better. There is some early data on a device that is a piece of plastic, like a disc of almost like rubbery plastic that that when people lose their meniscus, they're inserting into the inside of the knee. It's perfect. It's on a phase 1 study, so it's not FDA. It's not released by the FDA, but it's funny. I have a mother of a patient of mine had it done in Texas under a clinical trial, and she is so happy. So there's a lot of things coming down the line that are kind of in between, because, you know, if you have a joint replacement, you have a partial knee or a full knee replacement, you can't run. So you can swim and bike, but you can't run. So what do we do in between, you know? But I do, so that stuff is coming, but I do think that the key here is to basically try to be as conservative as possible, run on the knee, be as active as you can be. And many times you're able to be active and not have to do the surgery.
Great. All right, Fogarty, let's unmute you real quick. Sorry, we can get you going here in a minute, Dr. J. I'm sure you got plenty of people to see there, but yeah. we really appreciate this time. So Fogarty,
it's great.
I actually brought this shoe just to show, and Fogarty brought it up. So let's unmute you. What was your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So from 2014 to about 2020, I had really consistent Achilles and plantar issues. I mean, to the point that if I was over 20 miles a week, when I got out of bed in the morning, I had to crawl out of bed. It hurt so much. Even if I watched TV for a half hour and got up, I could not stand up. I had to kind of crawl my way up. Tried lots of things. Did the sock that had the foot flex at night.
Yeah,
that helped. Right? Yeah, the Strasbourg, and it helped a little bit. But I took off during COVID. If I felt like it was a good time, I didn't have any races. I said, let's just stop running completely for like 3 months and just bike and swim. And then I came back and said, well, let's try some just really low cushion shoes that just very flat, very cheap shoes. And so 4 months off, and suddenly on these low cushion shoes, it's gone. Like, it's like I never had it. So I was wondering if maybe, could it have just, I needed the rest? Or could it have also been that maybe those high-end, low drop, big cushy shoes for me were maybe cramping the foot in, curling the toes? Just it was.
What was the shoe that you were using like heavily cushioned, like a big, thick, cushiony shoe, like a Hoka or something like that?
Never the Hoka, but one's with a big, I don't know if it's called a big drop, but a big cushion in back, and then the toe would be less cushion. So I think that means a high drop.
Oh yeah.
That's drop, typical, because it seems like I kept going up and up with the cushion in the back.
Yeah.
Every time there was pain, it would help a little bit, but overall it just kept making it worse. So I did go back recently. I have the Vaporfly 4%, which are like the carbon plate shoes, and I did a run maybe a month ago in those, and I actually noticed when I did that run, felt some Achilles twinge. It might have been in my head, but I felt that again. So maybe I just need lower drop, flatter shoes. I don't know. Yeah,
and you know, there's probably a sweet spot there, because with the very high heel shoes, when your foot is way up, your Achilles becomes more contracted, right? It becomes shorter, and sometimes it becomes so short that when you walk around in regular shoes, when you're not running, it becomes so tight that it creates this like stiffness, you know, within the, you know, and so I think that I think there's a sweet spot there. And I think that that's something that people have to understand sometimes, that there may be a sweet spot where, you know, maybe too much cushion is too much, because when you're running a lot, it creates more contracture, more tightness. So I think that you were smart to experiment a little bit, but I think that, yes, I think cushioning is important, but maybe sometimes too much cushioning, maybe too much when the gradient is too much, you know?
Okay, so I could kind of just keep maybe rotating through shoes now. And if I get a new shoe, creates
Yeah.
pain, ditch it immediately, go back to
Yeah.
just keep flipping to make sure the ones I'm wearing
Yeah,
are no
yeah.
pain.
Yeah, and I think most of the standard shoes, the neutral shoes that exist, like the Asics, you know, the Brooks, a lot of those shoes don't have a huge gradient, you know, most
Okay.
of them, you know, so you could
Okay.
try some of those regular shoes. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You're welcome. I'm glad you're better.
Yeah, it is. It's pain-free. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Great.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of issues with the new carbon shoes that are coming out because of that.
Yeah.
You know, that huge heel. It's just like you said, it's just compressing that Achilles, and a lot of athletes are having Achilles issues because of these. You know, they make you 4% faster or whatever, but if you're not able to run because you have that Achilles issue, and I'm feeling it right now. I did a tempo run in these last week, and my Achilles is just flared up like crazy. So it might be something to look out for. You know, they might be sexy, they might make your times faster, but are they really worth it if you can't run, right?
I also think that you bring up, I also think you bring up a good point of rest. I think that the body sometimes needs rest, and I think that running can be very hard on the body. And I think that as you group of people that are triathlete people that put a lot of force on your body with running, that sometimes it's healthy to eliminate some running. So if you have a period of time where you don't necessarily, let's say you do a triathlon or something like that, where you're running like 6 miles, like a shorter run. Sometimes it's healthy to not run for a little bit, to just train, bike and swim, and then do some very light, keep the running light, you know? And I think that can be very helpful sometimes to not just completely go to zero, but maybe eliminate some of the impact.
Yep. Totally agree.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm sure you got
Okay.
Jerry. Anything else you want to
Yeah,
go?
I got to get back to the operating room, but I
over there. You can bring the camera in there and let's just show us what you're doing.
Exactly. I really enjoyed this. This is fun, and please call on me again. I'm happy to discuss all different kinds of things, all different kinds of injuries. And I just want to thank Dr. Loader, who's one of my good buddies. He's in our practice, who's he's been running his way all over the country. So
oh yeah. And where's your practice located, just in case anybody needs to reach out and schedule with you?
Yeah, my office is on 3rd Street near La Cienega. So it's a medical building. We have in our building, we have an MRI, a surgery center. We do PRP in the clinic. So we do a lot of things. And if you can feel free to hand out my email if you guys want to email me questions or need to get in as soon as possible. I'm happy to accommodate. Okay.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for all your time and all that knowledge. Really, really appreciate it.
Anytime. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, Doc.
You too.
All right. Take care. Bye. Okay. I'm back.
All right. Whoa. Good info.
Yeah, you guys that do triathlons. I like that comment.
You guys, extreme athletes.
Well, yeah, doctors are, generally see Joe and Jenny Q public, right? Athletes come in and it's quite rare.
Yeah, but that was some really good info. I love how he was talking about how we got to get to the root of it. Like, listen to your body and get to the root of what's causing the issue. Don't just put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, don't treat the symptoms, find the cause.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're let's get into the meat. Like, I guess that was the meat, but let's get into some information. So we're still in our open water skill building in the swim phase. What are we introducing this week to our swimmers?
Well,
Jared.
We added in the last couple of sessions, or into this particular session. Where is Chris O'Driscoll on?
He was taking
Coach
a
Chris?
nap over there. His feet are up.
Yeah, there he is.
I am.
I heard you added, or you greatly modified our workout today to have the O'Driscoll version of it.
He made it a lot tougher than what was written. I'll tell you that much. This guy, when you put the press to us.
So I pull up in the parking lot at 10 minutes to 11. I'm coaching at 11 o'clock and I see Lubinsky and I go, oh no. And then I walk in, I see Tim, and he goes, by the way, Jerry's in lane 7. And I go, oh no, it just got even worse. And I started to panic. So
Hey,
it wasn't that different. It
you
was 300.
handled it like a pro. He just made it a
Exactly.
lot tougher than it was supposed to be, and I wasn't ready for that.
Well, we got 3 guys racing this week, you know, so
Hey
I
man,
thought,
that's
step
what
it
you
up,
did.
step it
That's
up.
what you did. We're sharp, baby. And I lost about 50 pounds wearing that wetsuit.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, we are, we gradually build in and introduce the skills throughout these several weeks, right? As opposed to just dumping it on, which is why I'm not a big believer in these. You've heard me say this many times in our podcast and on here, in these, 8 to 12 week plans where literally 1 week or 10 days out from a triathlon, these plans then have you introduce sighting and practice sighting. There's just not enough time in a 12-week plan to really learn and properly execute all the skills that are needed. So we started carefully, and we just introduced into our deck ups the running portion of it in today's workout. So when you do a deck up, then you have to run, if your facility allows it, 10 or 15 seconds or so. I certainly recognize that most facilities don't allow it, but I also recognize that many people, we've gotten the reports back. I feel kind of silly standing there in the pool deck jogging in place, and everybody swimming is laughing at me. Well, that's their business. They're not paying $500 or $800 to do an Ironman, so it's your money spent. Make sure you're well prepared for your races. So climb out. If your facility doesn't allow jogging, you'll just jog stationary on the pool deck for 10 or 15 seconds, and then you dive back in. So we're starting to build in all the pieces of your race so that when you get to event day, you're fully prepared. So today was the add-on of running with the deck ups. And then we also added in, I believe, Jim, started with race takeout speed, right? In the first segment of the main set, the first minute and a half or so, minute to minute and a half, where we had our athletes going fast at the beginning, which, by the way, most athletes do that anyway at a race. The difference is they're just not prepared for it because they haven't trained for it. So they go to event day, excited at the start. It doesn't matter what type of race it is. It could be a running race, swimming race, biking race, triathlon. Unless you prepare and build into your training certain protocols that are going to have your body, teach your body to adapt to a quick takeout pace, it's going to be humbling if you do that and then you're not prepared. So we build these into all of our workouts. Today was the start of it, and you'll start seeing this throughout the next several months.
yeah, it was really great what Chris did. He had us all gather afterwards, and I talked about, race takeout, and Billy brought that exact same thing up. When he starts a race, he just takes it out at race pace. He doesn't put in a huge effort, but everyone around him puts in a huge effort because he knows 100 meters in, he's going to pass all those guys because they don't know how to take it out strong and then settle in the tempo. They take it out strong and then they're, breaststroking 100 meters in. So it's definitely a skill you have to work on and a feel you have to get down. So, you can back it off to that race pace after that initial takeout and survive. You don't have to back it all the way down to a breaststroke.
And become familiar with that discomfort. It's still going to be difficult in the beginning in those first couple of minutes at high takeout effort. And there's a lot of jockey, especially if you're at the pointy end. Some of our pros that are in here, the race is on the line for prize money for some of you. You're jockeying for position from the very beginning. So there's a lot of contact, there's high discomfort, and you got to get familiar with what that's like. And then you settle into the pace that you're going to be able to sustain.
And that's a big thing, just being able to keep that effort up at the race takeout while staying relaxed. Because you got a lot of athletes who take it out and they start holding their breath, and that's where everything starts to go completely down.
And one of the things that many athletes don't do really well, especially those that are uncoached or who have poor coaching, is athletes tend to train on one output quite a bit. Now, recognize, Jim, in your bike sessions or our workouts, that's not what we do. So some of you guys in this call are not familiar with just sort of the steady state pace only, or you may have been before you joined us. But as you can tell, we have lots of variations in how we train athletes within almost every workout. And in fact, just last night I was watching the men's 10K. Jim, did you see that race? The Olympic trials 10K?
No, I got it on the DVR. I was going to watch it after this, so didn't watch it yet.
I mean, last quarter, 400 meter, 4 laps to go. So, 1,600 meters to go, 66 second speed, then 64 second speed, then 62 second speed. And then that last quarter, 53 seconds. And the guys who couldn't run 53 seconds, they were just popped off, just dropped off just like that. And in fact, for that race, it's one of the few races where the entire field stayed together most of the race. And then as the heat started getting turned up, which comes from the ability to change gears, okay, and go to higher outputs, a lot of the guys in the field couldn't do it. There were 3 guys at the front who broke away. And Ben True, Sarah's husband, was able to barely hang on. Unfortunately, got 4th. He didn't make the Olympic team. You guys, Sarah True is the husband. Ben True is the husband of Sarah. Jim, what was Sarah's? Emily, what was Sarah's pre-married name?
Groff.
Sarah Groth, yeah. U.S. Olympian triathlete Sarah Groth. Her husband Ben had a great run, just got 4th. Wasn't able to. It took running 54 seconds on the last quarter to make the Olympic team. So if you didn't train in workouts to run 54-second spurts within workouts, if that wasn't built into training sessions, guess what? You can't do it on race day. So you can sit there and run 65-second quarters all day long, but unless you can run 54 seconds at the end, you're not going to make the U.S. Olympic team.
It's funny. Pam just sent me a text. Pam, what was that text you just sent me? Let's talk about that real quick, because it's exactly what you're saying here, Jer.
Yeah, so I've been watching the Olympic trials when I can, because I love that stuff. I was, tracking. I went to the Olympic trials in the past. Obviously not as an athlete. But
you don't have to say that. Just say you went.
Take a whole week off work and go watch. Love that stuff. But every race that I've watched, from the sprints to the distance races, steeplechase, everything, it is never a positive split that wins. And that's true in marathons too. Every single one of them, they're pacing themselves, they know, and it's not just getting ready to push, it's so that they can hold on and then have a negative split race. Nobody is crossing the finish line first that I can tell who had a slower second half or last quarter of the race than the others. So it's all that pacing and building into it. Obviously, compared to our run workouts, Jim, at a much greater pace, so the delta there is a little different, but it's still showing that patience.
Yeah, I love it.
To be able to maintain.
Exactly. And that allows you to dig to that next level as you bring it to the finish chute. If you take it out at your max pace, where do you have to go when you come down that finish chute? There's nowhere. So,
in fact, let's ask
great.
Coach Jack, what do you unmute yourself there, and what did you see at the Olympic trials in swimming that just ended on Sunday?
Oh, well, a couple cool things. One thing, this is a breaststroke event, but there was, I used to coach at Division III in college, and one year we were at NCAAs for Division III, and this kid came out of Emory and was just like this tremendously fast breaststroker. I mean, head and tails above anybody else in the field. And he goes on, and I think he swam for Emory, but he made both 100 and 200 breaststrokes this year. He made the Olympic team, came in second,
Wow.
and fast 200 breaststroke, like 208. So to me, that was just kind of neat to see the progression. I mean, he went on to swim, obviously postgraduate, he swam, I think, at Texas for a while, and then he swam in Georgia leading up to the trials.
So for our guys here, let's do a quick conversion, you guys. And 208 for 200-meter breaststroke is approximately 152 for 200 yards. 200 yards breaststroke, 152. So that's a 56-second per 100 average going breaststroke, right?
I mean, it's just blazing. So I just thought that's it. He kind of gets lost in a lot of these other stories. But another kind of surprise was in the women's 800-meter race, which was a young girl who's a woman, 15 years old, who just hauled butt on the last 50 meters and placed second, made the team behind Ledecky. And she went into the meet, I think, with an 8:37 as her time, and dropped, 8:20 is what she placed. So that's quite a drop, in one swim meet. So yeah, those are a number of cool races in there. Kind of a changing of the guard. Some of the male swimmers that have been on teams before didn't make it. Ryan Lochte, Nathan Adrian. So it's going to be kind of a neat young group of swimmers.
I wish that somebody mentioned this, one of the hosts at the 2016 Olympics, and I was talking to my wife about it last night. it would be so important, and some of you guys I'm sure have heard this, whether it's our Olympic trials or at the Olympic Games, to put a, let's use the word ordinary person in the event so the public can get perspective as to, so let's take the women's 100-meter freestyle where they're going 53 seconds. You don't really get perspective on how fast that is unless there's a mere mortal in there, some other girl that's 20 years old who's just a regular lap swimmer, put them in, and these Olympic girls are finishing their 100 by the time Jenny Ordinary is about 30 meters into the race, 30 to 40 meters at the most into the race.
Maybe
And also
parents go in or something, you know,
because
because my daughter was at a violin camp once, and we were in the audience, and I remember, you know, all the parents are like looking at because their kids are messing up, and then the instructor said, "All right, kids, get off the stage, give your parents the violins." We had to go up there and try to play.
Exactly.
Disaster. So,
and you know, you guys
out of stand, make them go in and try to swim that, you know.
Another good perspective of when you look at some of these athletes, like you just mentioned, Nathan Adrian not making the team.
Yeah.
What many folks don't realize, it's sort of similar to, unless you're at the basketball game and you're on the floor, Nathan Adrian, I believe, is 6'7", 6 foot, somewhere around there, 235 pounds. I mean, these are big folks. Katie Ledecky's 6'1", I believe, somewhere in that range. Yeah. These are big superhumans.
Yeah, they're fine specimens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of like myself. So, all right. Beautiful.
That 100% humility as always.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for that, Jack.
You're welcome.
All right, Emily, we have any questions coming in? Anybody wants to go over?
Yeah, Lynn had a question about structuring the swim workouts if you're doing open water. How do you specifically kind of go about adjusting the pool workout to a swim workout or an open water swim workout? Sorry.
I don't think we should be adjusting them. I think the 2 A sessions are to be done in the pool, and they're A sessions just for that. And then you would have a once a week open water workout if that's possible. And we talked about this in prior episodes, right, Emily, where you can then, why don't you go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah, so you could take the B session, that might be a good one to do. And then say, for example, the set is 10 100s. I'm just using that. You could, if it takes you 2 minutes to swim your 100, you could do 10 by 2 minutes and say they're on 20 seconds rest. You would take 20 seconds float, kind of swimming. You could roll over and do some backstroke and then do another 2-minute effort like that. So, you know, if you're doing 200 efforts, just estimate what your 200 time would be in the pool, swim the effort for that long, rest the prescribed time. And then it's always good. Like if there's deck ups in there, maybe at the end you do some finishes where you practice finishing strong into the shore, standing up and running onto the beach. Do that a few times.
Yeah. So it's always two things. You convert by either time, like Emily said in her example, 10 2-minute swims, or by number of arm strokes. So for instance, if you know that it takes you 60 swim strokes to swim a 50, I'm making something up. So it takes you 100 swim strokes to swim a 100 as an example. Then for you, it's going to be 10 times 100 strokes for 10 100s. And you then go 20 strokes easy. So you can also do it by stroke count.
Good one. But go into it with a plan. I say it every time we talk about this, go into it with a plan, just like you go into a swim workout in the pool with an execution, plan a workout, go into it with a workout and execute that workout. All right. What else do we have here, Emily? Anything?
No, not yet. If you have questions, guys.
Actually, Pam wanted to talk about form goggles and diving.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I don't have any, I just saw that right now. I looked up. I don't have any success, so I have to bring another pair of goggles and dive with those because they fall off every time. So I don't think form goggles are meant to be, diving practice in those things.
I will try that and get back to you.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried it plenty of times, and there's been a bunch of other athletes who've tried it. So let's see if Jerry can do it. I don't know. Jerry's the Aquaman, so we'll see. If anybody can do it, it's him.
I don't know why it would be a problem because it's not.
I
It's
think
just
it's
some
that
little
thing on the
small-
side, that little thing on the side that catches and pulls them down. Give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need to hold your, your shoulders closer together or something.
So while we're waiting for questions, Coach Jack, I want to come back to you with a question. Do you think Katie Ledecky, this is a leading question because I really think that this is the case. Do you think Katie Ledecky is vulnerable in the women's 400 freestyle?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, it could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but I kind of agree with you. Your earlier take on this. I think she is.
I think it's going to be a great race.
It's hard when you're swimming with somebody over your shoulder, looking over your shoulder, and I feel like that's the way she's swimming right now.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the good one of the good swim events to watch at the Olympics, the women's 400-meter freestyle. So Greg is her coach at Stanford, right? So she's been swimming with.
Yeah.
What has happened to her stroke? I've noticed a significant difference in her technical mechanics from the last time I've seen her swim in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe she's just grown up a little. You know what I mean? It's just part of getting older and maybe stronger. You know, maybe some of the strength training has affected it, but I certainly it does look a little bit different.
She's a lot sloppier and my biases, guys. I really don't care for when Rowdy Gaines comes in and talks about Katie Ledecky with the perfect swim stroke, and here she is lifting her head now before she turns all perfect. Well, that's not perfect. That's not perfect for pool swimming. He tries to take the athlete and make the athlete perfect, make their mechanics perfect, but it's not. That stroke's fine for open water, but it doesn't work in the swimming pool. I mean, I've seen flaws that she has now that she didn't have 2 years ago.
Yep. Yeah. She was always a little quirky, I thought, you know, even coming up, but it seemed like they really kind of disciplined her stroke in underwaters, you know, maybe for the last Olympics, but I agree with you. It looks a little different right now.
Yeah.
Like a little tighter. See.
Anything, Emily?
Yes. Do you have any instruction on how to dive properly into the pool?
I think the simplest thing, since we don't have diving in triathlons, it's not something that we actually, well, we do have diving, I take that back. We have it in the ITU races. But generally, for most of us, you're not going to have to dive in a triathlon. But the ITU race, dive off the pontoon and then re-enter the water. It's a two-loop course. A couple of things. You always have to have your goggles ratcheted down slightly more. Also, put your swim cap over your goggle rather than your goggle over your swim cap. So goggle on first, then swim cap after. And then finally, or actually it's the foremost thing, as you dive into the water, you always want to make sure your chin's tucked down. We tend to want to lift the chin up slightly to sort of see where we're going to hit the water. That's an absolute no-no because the water just rips the goggles off and the face hits the water full on. So tuck the chin down. And in the perfect world, if you could get your hands to break the water right before your face or your head does. So the hands break the water first and the head just falls into where the hands were. But that takes a lot of practice and a coach to stand there and help you to nail that down. But generally, if you can just keep the chin tucked down, that should help. Is that about right, Jack?
Yep. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. It's just hard to give advice without knowing what the level of their diving ability is, because some of the stuff we teach in the pool for swimmers are people that can dive quite well. And if you did that with somebody who is a real novice, they might, if they went in something that was not deep enough, they could get hurt. Because swimming, we generally teach like trying to get right through a rabbit hole. You know, you're trying to, every piece of your body, your fingertips, your elbows, head, hips, toes, all want to go through one entry point. So it's more of a deeper dive these days, but out and deep.
Good point you're making regarding safety, guys. If your facilities are shallow, I don't recommend diving unless you're a highly skilled swimmer. And let's define shallow, 5 feet or less. Don't dive in. Just jump back in, push off the wall.
So, Jared, we have, yours truly and a bunch of our athletes going to be at Coeur d'Alene, Ironman Coeur d'Alene this weekend, where the temperature is going to be above 100 for a majority of the race, right? It starts at 5 a.m., but that temperature is going to hike up quick. What's your suggestion on the swim portion of the race? How should an athlete make any type of adjustments based on what's to come later in the day in their swim, or should they just swim the regular swim that they're going to be, the same effort that they're expected to swim on in normal conditions?
What's the water temperature?
High 60s.
And what's the the ambient temperature at the start of the race?
Probably about, I think it's 78 to 80, somewhere in there.
What do you think?
I mean, knowing that, the high 60s, low 70s swim with the wetsuit on, that's still going to be depleting. So I'm thinking after your race takeout, whereas you'd usually be at a 75 to 80% effort, you'd want to really relax that stroke and keep it extremely smooth, extremely efficient, and try your hardest to get on somebody's feet, even if they're swimming a little slower than you think you should be swimming, just to save that energy. Because on the run where it's really going to be heating up, you're going to need any energy and any electrolytes you can save on that swim.
So you think that extra couple percent, you might get, you're going to get torched quite a bit in the last couple hours of the race then? Yeah,
I mean, I think that with the wetsuit on in the high 60s, low 70s, it's going to be pretty depleting swim. That's low 60s in a wetsuit. It's kind of ideal. As that cranks up and you get into the 70s, you start to sweat and you start to lose a lot of fluids, throughout the course, especially when Ironman. So if you can save that energy slightly, back it off and really use someone's feet to pull you along, I think that's going to be, vital in race day success in temperatures like that. But a lot has to do with preparation as well. You got to make sure you're getting the fluids in with electrolytes the day before, the morning of. And if you've topped it off and you go into it, with a good, balance of electrolytes and hydration in your system, that's going to help you a lot as well.
Good.
Thoughts? Would you agree, concur, or no?
I think in the upper 60s to low 70s is still relatively cool enough, especially for super lean athletes. So I'm uncertain. I think this is not an easy. We have a term we use in Trinidad, but good buddy of mine. This is a hard question. It's a hard question because it's very individual. Some folks respond really. My wife, for instance, loves running and runs really well in super hot temperatures. I mean, the hotter it is, the better she runs. So while others are wilting, she's like the getting watered. And then some athletes. Scott Molina, you remember that name from way back when? Scott Molina could never perform really well in Hawaii, in Kona. Heat and humidity just wilted it. So quite individual, I think. But if you want to, land on the conservative side, and I guess you can peel back just a bit on the way to manage that is get on some fast feet if you can, like you said.
Yeah, find those feet and stay there. Don't be intimidated, or don't worry about if you're touching their feet every stroke, right? It's part of the race. So, all right, Emily, anything else? Anything you see there?
No questions. I was just going to kind of talk about what Jerry was just saying about like being conservative at the beginning. Like if you're a little bit extra conservative, I think that's probably the best mistake you can make. Because if you overheat too early, it's game over. I mean, it's a closed energy equation. If you torch yourself in the beginning, those last 2 hours when it's 102 degrees on the run are going to be really, really hard. So it's best to kind of save. If you have little bit of energy, then it's best to play it at the end when it's really hot, because that's when you're going to need it more, I think.
Love it. All right, for all you guys going to Coeur d'Alene, 7:30 a.m. on Saturday, we're going to be at the flagpole for a swim, open water swim. So bring your suits, and we'll get that in. We'll send out a note on that, reminder on that later in the week. Anything else, Jer?
No, but good luck to you and everybody else, Jimmy. I'm glad you're finally getting out of home.
Oh yeah, that's where I get to go rest, go do an Ironman. I get a break. All right, Emily, anything else from you?
Nope. Good luck. We'll all be cheering for everyone this weekend. Coeur d'Alene, Steelhead. I can't remember what else.
Meg B is at some East Coast aqua bike. She's going to kick
Rev
ass
3
there.
Williamsburg is this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, I got one final thing. I know we're right at the timeline here, 20 seconds, but I'll make it short in 30 seconds. A question came in that Coach Tim sent me. He wanted to have a chat about how do you answer the question, and it's from one of our athletes regarding what do I do the week for my swim training, the week leading up to my race. And the answer depends on, is your race an A race, a B race, or a C race? And if it's a C race, you do nothing. A C race is just it's part of your training. A B race, you might have a little bit of backing off. And then for your A races, the week leading up is going to obviously be very different. Effort levels are going to be managed. Volume is going to be managed also. But you have to identify the value of the race first to be able to answer the question.
Perfect. All right, guys, thanks for joining. A lot of good info here. I'm going to put the recording up in the Training Peaks link, and we'll maybe send it out on our Facebook page so anybody can tune in and get that great info from the doctor, and I'll get all the great info Dr. Jerry gave throughout this session as well. All right, guys, have a great week. We have our open water swim tomorrow. We have our runs tomorrow, back on the bike on Thursday, bike workout tonight. So plenty of opportunities to hang out with this guy. All right, guys. Oh, Coach Emily's on the Thursday night ride, so she's going to kick your butt there. So
Actually, Danielle is, I think.
Danielle is on that. Emily's
Yes.
moving. That's right. See, Jer, we got a whole system in place.
I like
Great
it.
stuff. All right, guys. Good work. Congratulations
good
to all you
one.
guys who raced last weekend. We will talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, guys.